Everyone, I want to welcome you to the call tonight. My name is Doug Mainers. I'm Director of Member Relations and Training with Connected Investors. On behalf of Ross Hamilton, our CEO, I want to welcome you to the call tonight. This is the Residential Wholesale Mastery Training. This call, we talk about different aspects of wholesaling, properties, and of course, if you're not a wholesaler, if you're a fix and flip or a buy and hold investor, you still want to hang on the line tonight. You want to be able to pay attention because you'll be able to find deals the way wholesalers do. And of course, that's what it's all about. Sometimes you might not be able to fix and flip every single deal. So it gives you an opportunity to still make money. So tonight, what we're going to be doing is breaking down tonight specifically just the wholesaling process for you. I do like to hit on the wholesaling process, the entire process, to make sure you understand exactly how to do that, walk you through it. Make sure you understand how Connected Investors can help you do that, especially with our new PIN motivated seller leads. And so we're going to walk you through that step by step tonight. So get ready, pay attention, take some notes, and I'm excited to see you on the call today. Great to have so many folks joining us. So again, let's jump right in and get started. If you have any questions, you can put them there in the question box. I will have a time to answer questions here at the end. So let's jump right in and talk about our agenda for today. So basically what we're talking about today is we're going to be walking through what is wholesaling. You know, what's the difference between a wholesaler and a property locator? We're going to get in and talk about wholesaling versus fix and flips. What are some of the pros and cons of each? We're going to talk about who and where are the property sellers. Who are they and where do we find them? We're going to talk about who and where are the property buyers. Who are these buyers and where do we find them? And then lastly, but obviously not leastly, is we're going to talk about getting paid. That's what it's all about as a real estate investor. Obviously, you want to get paid. And so it's important to make sure that you go ahead and understand all the dynamics around that. And we'll be breaking that down for you so you'll know exactly what to expect. So let's jump right in and get started. Again, thanks for joining me tonight, and we'll roll right along. So basically tonight, just to kind of help you understand the wholesaling process, there are sellers out there that need to sell their properties. There are obviously buyers or investors that are looking to buy properties, especially at a discount. And your goal as a wholesaler is to bring together those two entities, right? You're bringing the seller and the buyer together, typically by presenting them, the buyer, with a contract, a purchase and sale agreement that you've negotiated with that seller. You're bringing that to the buyer and assigning that over to the buyer for a fee. So that's what wholesalers are all about, and that fee is what it's all about. Well, you can make anywhere from, say, $1,000. I've had wholesale deals where I've made as little as $1,000 on. That's okay. Still spends the same. I've had wholesale deals I've made over $20,000 on. So typically in residential wholesaling, you see $1,000 to $20,000. You decide how much you want to make. And that's kind of the beauty of it. And then of course, this is residential. Now commercial wholesaling, which is a whole nother topic, more complicated, more involved, but certainly can play into making much, much larger sums. But for residential, that's generally what you would expect to see, occasionally maybe something even higher, but that's what it's all about. So that's why, wholesaling can be very, very lucrative. So I want to make sure you understand that. And the beauty of Connected Investors is we have the tools that you need to wholesale deals, and that's really the important part. So what I want to do next is I want to break down, kind of what's the difference between a quick flip, also known as wholesaling, right, and a fix and flip. And what you're going to find is there is a substantial difference in understanding and knowledge, education, the risk. There's a lot of things that go into the difference between the two. So let's go ahead and just break down a little bit, firstly, about fix and flip expenses, okay? Because as a fix and flipper, you have expenses that a wholesaler doesn't have. Why do so many people want to wholesale now? Because they don't have to get involved in all the fix and flip expenses. So let's go ahead and look at some of those. Obviously, you have insurance that you got to consider. Don't forget to get insurance if you're a fix and flipper. Or if you're a wholesaler and you're going to close on a property, make sure you have insurance. It's not that expensive. Somewhere around $500 per 100,000, maybe even less, is kind of what you pay for a vacant home policy. So just make sure you get that. Taxes, obviously you got to pay taxes. You got to pay closing costs. You got to pay interest on a loan, because as a fix and flip, unless you have cash, you got to borrow that money, right? OTP, OTM, other people's money, right? And so you want to have to, pay interest on that. Your rehab materials, you got to pay for the materials. You also got to pay for the labor for those materials to get installed, to get that rehab done. You've got to be able to pay commissions on the resale. You got to pay utilities, and you may have to even make loan payments monthly, right? And so there's a lot that goes into fix and flip expenses. You got to make sure that you're paying all these. As a wholesaler, you don't have to worry about all this. If you don't close on the property, if you're just flipping paper, if you're just assigning the contract, then all these costs and expenses you don't have to deal with. Now, that's the pro of being a wholesaler. What's the con of being a wholesaler? Obviously, is you don't get to make necessarily as much money on as a wholesaler as you would on a fix and flip. Some fix and flips you can make 20, 30, 40, 100,000 plus on a fix and flip. So keep that in mind. As a wholesaler, maybe you don't make as much, but you don't have to deal with as much. And also you want to keep this in mind when you think about wholesaling this to an investor. Don't go out as a wholesaler and try to make 30 or 40,000 on a flip, and then you leave the investor a chance to only make 20,000, and then you wonder why you can't wholesale it, right? Go ahead and just don't be too greedy. Make sure that you be reasonable about the amount you make. Obviously, the way I always did wholesaling is the more the investor can make, the more I want to make on it as a wholesaler. But if they're not going to make a huge amount, I'm not going to make a huge amount. So, $5,000 is kind of the typical amount most wholesalers do. But if that investor can go ahead and make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 then on that deal, I might want to make $10,000 or $15,000 as a wholesaler. So it certainly gives you that option. But obviously, there's a big difference between quick flips and fix and flips. I still do fix and flips. That's what I do, but also I still wholesale as well. So that's kind of the big difference there between the two, and the pros and cons related to that. So that being said, let's go ahead and talk about how in the world do you do this wholesaling thing. Or if you're a fix and flip and you want to buy properties like a wholesaler or a buy and hold person, let's walk you through that process right quick. So basically what you're going to see here, guys, on the screen is what you're doing is you're negotiating a contract as a wholesaler with that seller. So for instance, on using the PIN product, right? You got the PIN product. You're reaching out to those sellers. Let's jump over there and look at that. We got a second. With that PIN product, what you're going to do is you're going to negotiate with those sellers. Let's just jump over and look at PIN. For those who don't have the PIN product, you can kind of get a feel for this. But I follow the Wilmington, Jacksonville area just because that's local to us here. These are all the PIN properties located here. I can scroll down and see those right here, all the PIN properties. So you kind of see those right here. And basically what this is PIN provides you with the equity, the county, all this information on these properties, the names, the contact info, in some cases, the debt, the mortgage, the value, the property type, the foreclosure status, if it's vacant, when it was built, the size, the acres, the purchase price that they pay for it, the mailing address of the person. Maybe they're an out-of-town owner. But what you're doing is you're reaching out to these sellers, right? You're contacting these sellers to see, and you're going to negotiate with them to sell their house. If they're motivated, they'll sell it. It's a vacant home, and they can't get a renter in there. They want to sell. If they're in pre-foreclosure, if they don't want that foreclosure to hit, they're going to sell. And so you're going to call, you're going to email, you're going to text message, you're going to contact them. You might drop off a flyer to their house. You stick it in the door, knock on the door, send them a card, send them a letter. I don't care how you contact them. Use all those methods if you want. But you want to reach out to them. You're going to put that property under contract using the Contract Genie. Now, one thing nice about the Contract Genie with the PIN, you see all the different parts of PIN. By the way, PIN's just been totally revamped. The Pinpoint Profits, it is phenomenal. But as you can see here, you do have apps available for your use that with the PIN product. And you might have all the ones you see here because all these aren't necessary with PIN. I just have them all as an administrator. But you can go through here and look and see all the different apps. And notice this one right here called the Contract Genie right here. This is the one that you're going to use to write all your contracts for any of the all 50 states. You're simply going to click on it. You're going to click Create Contract. And I'll do another training on exactly how to do all this. But you're going to click on Create Contract, and you're going to literally be able to go in and select a purchase and sell agreement. right here from the from the real estate area. You can click on real estate and then click on more, and you can go in and pick out a purchase and sale agreement or offer to purchase. In the business area, there's actually an assignment contract in the business area that allows you to sign that contract. And these are all for every state. We have these contracts. So guys, everything's right here. We provide all the tools that you need to get that done. So I just wanted to show those who do have the PIN product exactly how to get that working for them. Obviously, if you don't have the PIN product, you're certainly welcome to reach out to me. I'll give you my email address at the end of the webinar, and you can reach out to me and feel free to contact me with regard to, how do I get this PIN product, and we'll make sure that you get that, okay? So not a problem. So anyway, you get the idea there, guys. So what we're talking about here is with the PIN product is you're going to negotiate. You have all the contracts, you have the seller, and I'm going to talk more about that in a second, but you're going to negotiate that contract with the seller, right? That's what you're doing. And then basically, very, very simply put, you're going to use a purchase and sale agreement or an offer to purchase and sell, both of which are in the contract genie. And then you can also use an option contract. Now, this is not as commonly done. I've seen investors use an option contract or a lease option contract. I'll do that on a future training as well. But you use an option contract or an offer to purchase, a purchase and sale, and then you're simply gaining controlling interest in that property. Now, the difference between a wholesaler and someone who is just a property locator is the property locator does not have controlling interest in the property. They don't have it under contract. They just go out and find the property. Then they notify the buyer about the property, and the buyer pays them a finder's fee or professional services fee or something like that. They don't actually put the property under contract. Now, a lot of times people ask me, Doug, hey, I'm a wholesaler. I don't want to get that property under the contract and be stuck with it. Well, guess what? You don't have to be stuck with it because there's out clauses. And I'll talk about that here in just a minute. So let's move on. You get controlling interest in that property. And then you're basically, or as I mentioned, you're a property locator. As I mentioned there, you're giving the seller the info to the buyer, the seller info to the buyer, and collecting some type of finder's fee or a professional services fee, whatever the consulting fee, whatever you want to call it, right? Now, in addition to that, you say, well, what if I can't wholesale the property? Am I stuck? The answer is no. We have an out clause. You always want to put a contingency in there. It might be a due diligence period, which is something like an examination period, an inspection period, which basically is a period of time that you can get it out of that contract for any reason or no reason. You put that right into the contract. Due diligence period through December 12th, 2018. Buyer may get out of the contract for any reason or no reason, right? May terminate the contract for any reason or no reason, right? And that gives you an out based on your due diligence. You can renegotiate that due diligence period if you schedule it for December 12th, that you can cancel or terminate the contract by then. You can go back to the seller and say, hey, look, I need a little more time. Maybe you're still looking for a buyer. Maybe you need more time to do some inspections, whatever that is. You can negotiate that and see if they'll agree to extend that. But you want to have some type of outlet. You can have a financing contingency. You can have a contingency based on, satisfactory inspection, partner approval, whatever you and the seller agree to. You can have contingencies that get you out of that contract. Now, who are these sellers? Well, typically they are distressed sellers. These are individuals, 3% to 5% of property sellers that are in some type of distress. 95% of people sell retail. They sell through a real estate agent or sell retail. They're not distressed. It's the 3 to 5% of sellers that you're after. Now, they could be a situational distressed seller, motivated seller. In other words, a divorce, death, or probate. We get those probate leads through PIN, remember. It could be a financial issue. They got a tax debt. They got a pre-foreclosure. They got financial problems. Or it could be a structural issue. It's sitting there. It's a vacant home. It's in disrepair. Or maybe they're living in it, and it's in disrepair, and they just can't sell it to anybody other than an investor. Or maybe it's had a fire. Maybe it's vacant. Maybe it's a landlord that's got a vacant home. He can't seem to get a tenant in there, or he's tired of tenants, right? We have those vacant homes, those pre-foreclosures, all through that PIN, the Pinpoint Profits, the PIN product, right? All those motivated sellers are in there nationwide. Now, the seller, basically, where do we find those sellers? Well, I mentioned right here, PIN, right? Through the new PIN program that I just showed you a moment ago. you can find those motivated sellers. We give you the motivated sellers right on the list. Now, you just reach out to them and find out if they're ready to sell right now or not. If they're not ready to sell now, they might be ready to sell later. So keep that in mind. So Pinpoint Profits is where it's at. It's really cool, too, because you look at all the different filters and the pre-foreclosure, the courthouse. These are courthouse auctions that are happening within 45 days. You think they're motivated if their house is getting ready to get an auction block in 45 days? I would say yes. In addition to that, we got the bank-owned properties. We got the shadow inventory. These are bank-owned properties that are not listed yet. You got the zombie properties. These are properties that are vacant and in pre-foreclosure. And you got the probate properties. These are properties, obviously, the inherited properties. Someone's passed away that had an interest in that property. So these are all potential filters, ways that you can search using PIN to identify who these motivated sellers are. How cool is that? Makes it very, very easy. No more going to the courthouse, searching records and going through all that and having to go through the metal detector at the courthouse. You know, I've been there. I know all about that, guys. Now you can just do it through PIN. So pretty cool. Who are the buyers? Where do we find them? Well, a couple ways you can find them. Number one is you can list your property on connectedinvestors.com, and the buyers come to you. So once you have your property under contract, you list it as the contract holder in the marketplace on connectedinvestors.com, and we blast that out to all of the members that follow that area, and so they contact you to make an offer on the property. So we do that for you. We also notify them on Connected Investors that this property is for sale. So really, really cool. Another thing you can do is you can just search for buyer members in the community that's in the area of the property. So you can go to community and then go to members and do a member search in that area for buy and hold or fix and flip members. You can search for them right there. Kind of cool. The cool thing we have now through PIN is you can actually search for landlord flippers in Pinpoint Profits in the PIN program. In other words, what you can do here is these are not necessarily members of Connected Investors. You can search any area in the country and find out who are the landlords and the flippers in that area. You can see properties that they have bought, and you can say, hey, you've got a property right down the street from them. There's a good chance they're going to want to buy another property in that neighborhood. So PIN provides you another way to get buyers. That's really, really cool through that landlord situation. So let me just jump over there real quick one more time and just show you that landlord flipper in PIN. This is, again, these are not necessarily members of Connected Investors. These are, through PIN, these are individuals who have bought properties. So let's take a look what you would do to search that for those who are new to PIN or haven't and maybe haven't searched this yet. You simply click on filters. Right here, you see the landlord flippers. You simply just cut it on. See landlord flippers, recent market activity. You click show me deals, and it's going to pull in all of that landlord flipper properties. These are individuals that have bought properties in these areas, right? And so the landlord flippers will populate in there in a second because there's a lot of them. It takes it a little bit. And then you're able to go ahead and reach out and contact them and find out exactly, if they're looking for another property or not. So that is really, really cool. I recommend you zoom in. I did a large area, like a whole eastern part of the state. Obviously that's why it's taking a little bit longer. But you would want to zoom into the actual area of town that your property is located in, and it'll pull that data for that particular area of town. I just searched way too large of an area, but that's pretty cool how that works out. So we'll come back and look at that here in a sec. Oh, there they are. Okay, it just came in. And so you can see right here, these are the landlords and the various investors right here in those particular areas. So I can look at the property address. I can go in and reach out and contact them, find out, let them know, hey, what the situation is. And notice these are not in foreclosure. These are vacant homes. Look at the vacant homes right here. A lot of these landlords and are dealing with some vacant home situations. So that's actually a really positive thing. And I'll scroll up, you can see where they are on the map. They're showing them all right here. So I could click in here if I want to click in the area and zoom in and see who those landlords and tenants are. I could do that. So these are all the landlord tenants, and you can see right here the name of the person and so forth. So pretty cool how that works. So that's just another way for you to have buyers, for your property. You can zoom right in and you can take a look. I just zoomed right in and took a look at these properties on these landlord flippers. So as I zoom out again, you can see those come into play, and you can kind of check those. I just grabbed here and zoomed into it. But guys, that's how easy it is to pick up who are these landlords and flippers and so forth, and be able to click on them and see who they are. So I love that. You know, here's a construction company, obviously. This is a person who evidently does flips and things. So you get the idea. Really, really cool setup with the PIN to identify more buyers that aren't necessarily members of Connected Investors, okay? So that's where you're going to be finding your buyers, guys. You're going to find them through listing your property in Connected Investors or searching for the landlords, flippers in the new PIN. A lot of cool stuff. So how do you get paid, guys? 4 options. Number 1, you could be a property locator and collect a fee for your services, a professional services fee or whatever you want to call it, finder's fee, whatever you want to call it, right? Number 2, you can assign that contract and get an assignment fee, right? Assign the contract from the seller, right? You're signing in that contract you have with the seller to the buyer and giving over your rights to the buyer. They pay you a fee to do that. You put it right in the assignment contract, which is right in the contract genie. Also, you can do a simultaneous closing. This is where you can close and resell with no money. Some spaces, like in North Carolina, we can still do this. As long as the buyer has cash, you can actually close on the property and sell it to the buyer and use the buyer's money in escrow with that attorney or escrow company to be the seasoning for that. I've sold a number of properties as simultaneous closing and didn't bring any money to the table. I literally, the investor that was buying the property brought the money. And so that's kind of cool. That might not be available in all states. You got to find the right attorney. It is legal in North Carolina, but again, you got to have an attorney that kind of knows what they're doing. But that is another option. Or you can simply just close it using funding from, say, CIX.com. You can just close it yourself and use transactional funding and then turn around and sell it. I did a wholesale deal recently like this, make $15,000. I closed it, then I just turned around and resold it for 15 grand, literally the same day. But I actually decided to go ahead and close the property and then resell it. So really, really easy to do. So guys, hopefully you're getting the idea here. Wholesaling can be very lucrative. Again, as I mentioned, $1,000 to $20,000 a deal. Hopefully you have a better understanding now of how the wholesaling process works. Very, very cool, very easy to do. And again, it is something that you want to take advantage of, even if you're a fix and flipper. I fix and flip properties, but occasionally I come across a deal. Maybe I got too many fix and flips going. I can't do it myself, or maybe it's just not right flip for me. I'm not going to just let that pass by. If I find a property on PIN and it's a great deal, even though I can't, I'm going to wholesale that deal. I'm going to make some money with it. And so you need to do the same thing if you're a fix and flipper out there. So that's kind of cool. So guys, I'm going to take a few minutes and answer some questions real quick. So don't hesitate to pop your question right there in the question box. I'll be happy to answer that for you. Again, thanks for being on the call today. On behalf of Ross Hamilton, my name is Doug Mainers. I am Director of Member Relations. Here's my email address. If you don't want to put your question in the question box, shoot me an email, dmainers@connectedinvestors.com. Or you can simply, if you're interested in PIN, maybe you don't have PIN and you want PIN, reach out to me. I can tell you how to get it, how much it costs. It's a great investment in your future, guys. I'm telling you, one wholesale deal, will pay for this many, many times over. So definitely reach out to me, dmainers@connectedinvestors.com if you don't have PIN. If you do have PIN and you got questions, you can click the help button, the chat button when you're logged on. You can email me. So don't hesitate to reach out to me if needed. I'll be love to help you any way I can. Well, guys, I'm not seeing any questions in the question box tonight. So again, on behalf of Ross Hamilton, again, thanks for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you next time on the Residential Wholesale Mastery Training. Have a good one.